Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford to say thanks to my community, thanks to the many people that came in and helped, and above all, to remove the organized crime that laid in Abbotsford. We owe a tremendous thanks, and I want to lay it out today, to a few men in the Mission RCMP that turned the outcome to show what the Abbotsford A.P.D was doing was being Henry's bitches and ordering threats under a private police. Under my mayorship, before my mayorship, I'm hoping that they're removed and the RCMP come in. I showed you many people, due to the RCMP's help and mission, there's a lot of witnesses that were in Abbotsford that witnessed the Abbotsford police that I can't release because they need them to go against the Abbotsford police. So the top drug force and task force don't threaten these witnesses like they were doing on me. These witnesses are protected. They're protected for the courts, for the justice, and also for my community, when my community gets to hear their statements and see them over the Abbotsford police. Today I want to talk to you, before I begin, a few things. Arsh is running for school trustee. Now he's a part of Abbotsford First, and he was with Abbotsford First. Do you not think Mike DeYoung now, who said Suk Mangale had no experience and he shouldn't be getting that speech, shouldn't Mike DeYoung be calling Arsh in the corner of the school trustee that he doesn't got that experience and he's being loaded? There's also a big outcry in Abbotsford about Suk Mangale right now. And that outcry is that Suk Mangale got caught with Alex Mitchell at the Chamber of Commerce, and they're trying to win him over. They're going to set him up and he's going to fall. Alex Mitchell is a federal lib. Alex Mitchell was at Mike DeYoung's rally, and Mike made sure that everybody heard that she was endorsing Mike. And she will have it in for Suk Mangale because her driver was Mike DeYoung. When we Abbotsford residents and us were targeted by Braun and his order agreed to own the city and control it, it was a mission man that knew Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung's office would have went after the Abbotsford police, being ordered by Henry Braun and Mike Sir to cover the threats and Olenoff's threat to drop videos and lawsuits. When we learned that Ed Fast was tied to Mike DeYoung and Henry Braun, and they were cleaning for Henry to block the avenue to keep the RCMP out, we went to the top and worked down rather than from the bottom and kicked up. That meant we worked our asses off to go to the federal conservatives, the federal liberals, Terry Beach's office, to get Ed Fast unseated. We knew that Henry had to be blackjacking Ed Fast in order to control him on Diverse's site, to shut his mouth on the illegal changing and the zoning, and Henry's son in front of him. And it was cleared with Devin Roy holding Pacific Peak Homes and into Diverse, and here it comes out. We knew that these political players in the top were filling their back pockets through these mayors and warding decisions. Ed was a former city council, and he knew that not tendering the jobs, blocking the community and controlling it. Henry went in with his experience, his ties to politicals, and his ability to bully and manipulate the city to fill his pockets and his friends' pockets and shit-kick the Abbotsford residents. But he also took a private police as the SS, like Adolf Hitler. I want to say how tremendously thankful I am to the RCMP helping. When they said, Mr. Pelican, Abbotsford residents love you. They have no choice. You got to stand up and call this abuse out. One of the biggest things they made me call out was the attack on Councillor Mogel, the South Asians, that the Abbotsford white-collar crime task force went out to threaten him down on Gladys Avenue by the Tree of Hope, that Henry needed him blocked so Henry could have the city. It was already proving that Henry was trying to grab the city. There's nothing left for Henry now. He lost the federal and provincials. We made sure of that. We made sure that everything got exposed like people are, and we want to make sure that Suk Mangale, Bruce Bammons, and offices ain't over here and they're doing what's right and they're going to call it out. When residents phone, are you going to get lit up and you're going to bet it? We know Colin Watts is sitting on Corky Neufeld's lap, and that's what he's doing, trying to buy leniencies. Let me explain this, ladies and gentlemen. The new wave of organized crime is very sophisticated. It has money, it has resources, and it has political connections, and it was to benefit through these private police. It screened and blocked the city auditorium because Henry knew that way it would not get out on open mic that other people that call him in the ground would see. And then used the police to threaten. It set up its brother and family on the police. He used the police chief and took the city councils that are supposed to call him out. The RCMP put it together right away. When Henry hit and ran me, they said they knew Dave Lowens, Mark Warkentine, and all these are supposed to say, Henry, that's enough. You got caught in broad daylight, we're done. They couldn't. Henry made sure that he was going to own them to shut them up, giving them perks. Ross Siemens' gas station tugged to the hub, over from knockdown with all the chemicals, tugged into mission. The RCMP knew that Vicky Hopes was politically cleaning and helping Henry Braun and his establishment, and not to scandaling and getting criminal investigations. This new crime had many resources and money. It has access to the computer bases to where people live, their houses, and it knows how to frame them, set them up, and then bully them and antagonize them and wreck their lives. It is a new high elite criminal ring in policing. One of the largest rings to hit the Fraser Valley in organized crime. I want to say to the RCMP's help, a few men that changed it, not their whole force, a few men that changed it, wanted us to make sure that we logged every videotape on job sites breaking the codes and endangering people's lives, and then tag it back that how they were tied to Henry, and it was preferential treatment and beyond. Let me tell you, I was working for the great developers like Wall, and I made it clear, Aquilini, Mike Dakota, so much. Working for these people as a project manager, you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars by not putting proper safety into place, not doing fencing, not cleaning the roads, not doing flaggers. You could probably save $100,000 to $150,000 a month, and you could keep that in your back pockets. But that's not supposed to be done. And these jobs were being done. Today I got a most impressive phone call, and I want to talk to you about this phone call. There was one man that came and saw me after the election, and that was Jake Siemens, and he asked me not to target his daughter-in-law and his family, his grandchildren, after what his son done, Ross Siemens, knowing that Ross was loaded for Henry Braun to carry all the jobs and the frauds. Jake Siemens knows when it's this far on families, nobody's going to stop it. That man that phoned me today was Peter Sparanese, the city manager. He said he was on holidays. He reached out about the negligence on Gladys Avenue and what was taking place, that I made it clear that engineer wasn't doing their job. He's the manager. So I want to give you some advice. I want to give you some illegal advice and then tell you what you need to do. As city manager, as city engineer, as bylaw, and as mayor, and as councils, I would log every complaint that comes into you and do your duty so you have it for court when I come in. When I come in as mayor and show that the courts, into the prosecutors, into Abbotsford residents, and to everybody, that your intent was to harm the people on Mackenzie Road, get them deadly sick and not infraction, or give them fines or ask them to cease and desist, I will push for the maximum sentence that you were endangering their lives with them chemicals for your friends. I will push for the massivest sentences that you were rigging and threatening people up on the Mackenzie project to get this. I will push that. Having paperwork, this is what Wall and Aquilini and WCB make sure that you protect yourself. So to Dave Lowens, I want to make this clear. You better have paperwork and not ask. I asked Ed Fast, he's a lawyer. I asked Mark Warkentine or Jerry Palmer. When you're in front of the court and they'll say these complaints came in, you had a sworn duty, Peter Sparanese. Did you take any precautions? Did you phone back? Today I make it clear, Peter Sparanese phoned back. Did you do follow-up? To Peter Sparanese, I don't want it to go on deaf ears. You should log everything you do, even if you have to turn the recorder on your phone, because when this comes down the pipe, you can be able to say, look, I went to engineer and managing, and I went to everybody and I told them to stop. They told me to stick it up my ass because Henry needed the job. That way you can protect yourself, and you need to legally do that. This is the wisdom and knowledge of great people. But this is make sure you're doing it right. This was a buddy system. This was a complete buddy system. It got old, it got complacent, and it got greedy, and they weren't willing to let go, and Henry Braun was the mastermind. You never saw it under any other mayor, nowhere. Henry was about this town and greed and what he could get. This upper elite of ringing criminal ring lays in policing. It knows how to block. It knows how to hold down investigations, not do reports or criminal reports, or call witnesses and bring witnesses in. That will keep the Police Complaints Commission out and the RCMP. These are the upper men that were running the Abbotsford Police, the chief and his investigators. This would also keep them employed, and it could keep their charades going. You got to look, ladies and gentlemen, I made these videos. Lord and behold, I want to tell you today, if I didn't have the help of all Abbotsford's residents, the people and families, and the RCMP, and a judge that said, Mr. Pelican, nobody's above the law, no one can use it, no one can bend it, no one thinks of the end. The outcome, I guarantee you, would have been a different outcome. I believe, in my opinion, in my heart, officers in Abbotsford are being targeted massively because they went out and threatened. This ain't policing. It got out of Abbotsford's control, out from being questioned from in front of the city because Henry needed it. And it started running its own company, and they were in charge. You saw, so let me run through some of the things I want to tell you that right now tells you, whoa, what's going on. When the Abbotsford Police were on your tax dollars and driving around through Tim Hortons, you're supposed to park the company car and take your own car and go pick up your coffee, and they were buddying. Darren Braun showed me the hundreds of thousands of dollars before he knew that I was going to turn this way. When the Abbotsford Police were doing the work of the CP Police to chase the homeless out of there, and they had no business on that train track when they can make a phone call, and the CP Police, which are federal, will remove the homeless because they protect that safety of that rail. When the Abbotsford Police went out on your time cards and dollars and jumped on your community vehicles that they wanted a paycheck every couple of years to buy new company luxury cars, playing games, and they were all paid. When the men and women under Mike Sear on Canada Day went in behind the police building on your tax dollars, frauding hundreds of thousands of dollars, and had parties and hot dogs and everything else, and got double overtime, they were frauding your tax dollars. When the Abbotsford Police went out here with the police chief Mike Sear and Bob Rich, and these went out driving around in the Gator where they stood in the back with no seatbelt, all through town with no license plate, and giggling and laughing, they were out of control. The mayor wasn't controlling them. The mayor was only using them. You can play around, and I need you to do this. When 7 or 8 officers pumped and punched the guy at the sports center, and you knew that this is out. I told you I knew a lot of law enforcement. I was involved with law enforcement in the United States on a massive level, a very massive level. Worked with some of the best down in the United States, the Navy SEALs and everything. I knew that you could contain that situation immediately. The aggression of the officer was to pump him in the face. Henry's job then, he used Vicky Hopes in the newspaper. Don't follow up on the story. Don't write anything about the story. We don't need it. And he was shadowing this. Darren Braun was showing me, and I was taking that information over to the RCMP at all times. Leaving your municipality with your evidence to go to another police department knowing that they were stealing it and blocking and cleaning it is organized crime, ladies and gentlemen. Learn that. The attack on Councillor Mogel after the George Floyd incident to block him because he was brown and he called Henry out was the Abbotsford Task Force. When I took that information to the RCMP, I said, Mr. Pelican, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble making accusations like this. He said, where did you get this information? I said, right out of Darren Braun's mouth, and he's going to do it. They said, you better be sure of that. I said, how's about I video film the beat down? And then you got it. When I showed him the video film of Mogel's campaign and being smashed because he was going to take the homeless, and Henry said to Mike, sir, I can't have that shitbox get any more votes than me. Beat him, I need that city. Ed Fast was already in Henry's back pocket, and we knew that. When the Abbotsford police knew Mike Dionne's illegal high-ranking party with drugs and alcohol to endorse Dave Sidhu at the height of the coronavirus, when they went out and told people you could be fined for gathering, them shitbox establishment were in that pocket, and Henry was asking them, don't charge, don't scandal Mike, and I knew that. This is organized crime up in the top management, in the top. When the Abbotsford police used with the city, went down and beat the homeless to get them out of the way so Ross could load them rocks and put them right here on the grounds, and then went on the world stage crying that they needed them out of here when they brought him here. They sat on your dollars to enforce the homeless out of there for Ron Funk of the verse. These men are supposed to be investigators. They use the computers for their leverages. In my opinion, I believe they're playing the RCMP when gangs and stuff are coming to the valley, finding out where their raid is and where is it. Me and my guys will get there before Henry. When Keelan Olenoff told me to drop the videos of the lawsuit, which is your right when it's a negligence of a contractor, and the mayor had that obligation to call him out with counsel, or he would personally bury you. It was the RCMP omission, and some here in Abbotsford's bottom turned it up on the upper establishment, and Mike Sir and the task force, turning it right up, knowing that these uniforms, this manipulation was saving this company, and the people that were using it were the high-ranking politicians of Abbotsford, and they were going to bail it out at all times, thinking it's police. It was the RCMP that helped Abbotsford residents and me. That when Olenoff made the statement, he went to Henry's house because there was massive break-ins. They were already questioning how much illegal criminal ring was Olenoff doing with Mike Sir and this top elite police. That meant when Olenoff did it and called it out, the investigators, which are, let me give you a thing, corporals and generals to corporals, and the Safety Standards Act, they're supposed to talk to witnesses and call the police complaints. Henry couldn't run that. In my opinion, he had to pay Mike Sir a tremendous amount with the upper establishment to more threats and carry it out. When I told the RCMP, you know what the bait car is? That's when these guys trap people and pet cars and say we go after gangs and they're doing this. Let's do a bait election, they said to me, Mr. Pelican. So I threw my name in to run and told him that Henry was going to do everything to load Ross. He lobbied hundreds of trillions of dollars, illegal jobs. He had city councils outvoting the community, and he had two elite leading politicians at Abbotsford helping this criminal ring. And we knew already Devon Roy tied to Ed Fast, his son-in-law, and Pete Holmes and Diverse. We saw that the federal conservatives were already boot shit kicking Ed Fast to distance him because they knew he was in too far with Henry Braun and how Henry controlled him. Ed's wife made it clear that Ed would never take Henry down. He's too loyal to Henry. He would go all the way with Henry. Andrew Scheer was in town a few nights ago, and Ed Fast wasn't there. And you know why he wasn't there, because the Conservatives needed to distance themselves. When I saw Darren Brown tell me as the Economic Development Officer, Ed was getting his house fast rushed over everybody that's been waiting. I saw Peter Speranese, I saw Rob Isaac, and upper management. I believe Nancy Friesen said it the best, the city secretary, when she was stealing Bruce's stuff to help Henry. Would you like your name all over at YouTube, Mr. Pelican? I said, Nancy, I lead it for my community. I stand proud as one of Abbotsford's best. I want to thank the former Premier Bill Vanners and many dignitaries and many developers to say that the Abbotsford Police cannot exist. They have to go. They need to cry, and let me show you, anytime that I post something. When I saw the Abbotsford Police go into Yale, rip through a young kid's pack sack, and because he was brown, start accusing him because he's in color, that he's probably got drugs in it, and violated him. And the upper management didn't apologize and laughed and giggled, we're untouchable. This was the SS on a power trip, and it needed to be stopped. In the city, when you filed to report, Nancy Friesen was like, unless you talk to Henry or personally and you sit down with him, it's not going in front of the auditorium. This is how they were checking. Real big. They had it all tied up. Then Henry would phone the police and say, listen, Mike, this is the guy lodging the complaint. Use your database. Now go find your address and do it. When the Abbotsford Police knew that I was running, Henry ordered him so Ross could win over Manji Soe. He knew that I was going to trip him up and he was going to fall. Dave Sidhu went out to Blue Ridge and he was stealing. I had Brenda Falk already, the former council, because she got fried, tied, and everybody turning and telling. This is what the city and people are supposed to do. Check each other like the NDP and Conservatives do. Not hate each other, but call each other out because you're there for your voters and you're there and you're being paid. This was pure greed, and the SS was running Abbotsford. When I saw this, I asked the RCMP when Brenda Falk threatened to take my kids and make accusations with her friends at the ministry. The RCMP stepped in immediately and helped me. Mission men, only a few, not the whole force, turned Brenda Falk's world upside down. When Henry and Dave Lowens and these people didn't call him out, I knew right now they were with him. The Mission RCMP's knowledge is tremendous smarts. Abbotsford residents are asking me, Mr. Pelican, you're making big statements, so shit kicking them. I'm not going to shit kick them. I ran for mayor because they were flaunting in the face. You can't do nothing. Look what we can do to you. When the Abbotsford Task Force sat in front of my house 24/7, it was the Mission RCMP said, log it. They're on tax dollars and they're running up them time cards and nobody's calling them out. It was under Henry's orders so Henry could get Ross in to finish all these jobs and rush him. And this was already knowing it, and the RCMP were working hard with us. When the Abbotsford police chased me all over town and said drinking, driving, reckless driving, the RCMP knew if that was, you should have got a breathalyzer and pound your vehicles. They were threatening and pushing down their power and strength under this uniform. In plain clothes officers. When my neighbors witnessed them all come up in the task force, 9 of them. You lost the election, you little bitch. You lost it. This is what they were doing, trying to make me cross the line. The problem and the responsibility is that they do it to the wrong guy, they're going to lay dead on the street because this is what they were doing, antagonizing. Look at this uniform. When they locked this building down and ran and hid, they were already guilty. When the Abbotsford police picked the prostitute up down at Paviati's restaurant and had their way with the prostitute in your company vehicle, they didn't even have the decency to use the support van and show the lady there's at least you can lay. They did it in behind the steering wheel. This was out of control. Long time. When the Abbotsford police set up a thing here, a fundraiser garbage, and dumped ice on the women that can have miscarriages and workplace garbage, it was out of control. The Abbotsford police will lean now on anything. They'll use your taxpayers' money at your cost, and you can see this. They've been going around, and I'm showing you that they're going to try with their HR department now to show we need to pick up speeding tickets, we need to get out there, we need everything. How do you go and write a story in the newspaper? The Abbotsford police just launched a new youth group to combat the violence in youth. This is the most retarded, stupidest thing. They don't stand in proudness. You see their backs. It's not the mayor and the chief saying this. This is what we're going to do to combat youth after they beat the kid in Yale. When the Abbotsford police elbowed and left their gun lay on the street. When they raced our Dodge Chargers in the middle of the winter when they stole the gas. This is a police force. It needed to call on other police forces. We're all supposed to sympathize and get. We have to make sure other police forces are going. They're not dying in the line of duty. They're using us to get public persuasion, have these big elaborate funerals and everything else, and they were doing this. Nobody should block the criminal reports. They figured that they were smarter upstairs. When Collins Watts' guy knew in the race against the federal Conservatives, the nomination, and Mike de Jong's cheating, I made it clear to all Abbotsford residents, we need to knock Mike de Jong out. Henry's trying to load him for the federal Conservatives. We need to make sure he's not picked up by the federal Liberals or the Conservatives. If Mike gets in this way, he will seal everything that's coming and try to take, like, listen guys, I got stuff on you, so you clean Abbotsford for me and did. So we needed to work hard to get him out and make sure. Suk Mangale. You saw the attack on Suk Mangale. You saw the outright cheating in Mill Lake. You saw what Eric Nivel did. You saw it all. This is the wisdom and knowledge of the RCMP looking for small clues and evidence. And you saw this all. These weren't police officers. They were weak, cowardly men that were running an elite establishment ring of an organized crime, believing, like the judge said, nobody thinks of the end, that I will never be fired and kicked out. Why do I say the RCMP? We need to come in and remove them and put the RCMP in command. When I become your mayor, We will look if we can have an Abbotsford Police with under all new people, all new, and maybe they can now, the RCMP, sit above them in Abbotsford forever and ever and ever. After this much has took place in law enforcement, so this can never be set up again. And these men that now are Abbotsford's local police and community police will only have the jobs of going out, checking things, and they won't be licensed guns, they won't be doing anything. When Collins Watt's guy knew that I was going to interview Steve Schaefer, running for the nomination against Mike DeYoung here, the Abbotsford Police did this. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, ripped my heart right apart. The cop came over knowing he needs to stop this. This is an order by Henry. I believe Colin Watts told him, you need to get that guy stopped, you need to shit kick him, and we need to stop it because I've got my last chance. I just came in here and it's a scandal. Because you would apologize and say, I had nothing to do with that, Mr. Pelican. He's removed and we're going to investigate everything. And we're going to... He picked up and made accusations. The first thing he did is he smashed my phone, my camera. No, he threw my camera and my stand. I picked up my phone and he was making accusations that I was in town and he was going to put the boots to me, charge me, have me locked away, and he was just giggling with the, unfortunately, there was younger officers there that said, no, I just came on. This piece of shit's lying. This piece of shit's a liar. I never heard none of this. I went to phone the lawyer. When I said my lawyer would like them witnesses' names, he picked my phone up and he threw it. That's the phone my son bought me for Father's Day. When Henry Braun tried to end my life in broad daylight and used Gertie-Purdy in broad daylight, the Abbotsford Police upstairs, these men, believed the uniform could clean it. They knew they needed it stopped now because they're upstairs and they got to be gone. There's no more saving it. I knew that they will lean on other police departments and the leading politicians because this is who was using them to clean it. They failed to come to the hospital. They failed to come to get to criminal reports or talk to eyewitnesses. Then they continued to carry out abuse to force me to try to leave town. The uniform, the task force. These are the only men in the world that know how to go after gangs. Are you bloody kidding me? We cannot have them out on the streets. We cannot have them driving unmarked vehicles on the streets. We cannot have them anywhere because they're running their stuff, framing Abbotsford residents in this. When I ran that story on Yale Secondary, they came with this story trying to combat it. If I tell you right now that they attacked them seniors and them old people, you'll see Abbotsford Police just answered a new program with all its leading investigators and everybody. It's called Walk with the Grannies. They're doing everything. They're throwing your taxpayer dollars without your consent on these programs. This new electronic device that they got that claim, they've been going on for days about it. You don't need to go on days about it. The mayor should address that Abbotsford's got something to combat and restrain people faster than the guy that punched the guy in the face and the guy that elbowed him. Now we don't got to worry about these selfish assholes using the uniform after they smash people up. This electronic device is smarter than them, and we won't have this kind of stuff no more, and we won't be sued. The mayor's supposed to do it. They've been going, can we have that little bit of information, and running that information to get much leverage out of it. You see Colin Watts hanging with Corky Neufeld to sit on Corky Neufeld's leg. And I wonder when David Eby's going to say in Victoria, Colin, he's going to say to Corky Neufeld, hey, Corky Neufeld, I bet your lap's real sore with Colin Watts sitting on it all day long. They're going to lean and lean and lean. The Abbotsford Police have to and must be destroyed and gone. There's no if, buts, or maybe. This wasn't a little misdemeanor. It started on criminal negligence with Henry and his establishment, lobbying a job that damaged our homes, that I knew the experience from Peter Wall, Aquilini, Mike Dakota, Stuart Olson, and Intertech, working with great people. You're on the hook. And the mayor will have to go after the contractor. Henry couldn't do it. He was freeing up Riverside with his son to get Tilt upstairs, blocking Mogel to bring a lift to his property on Riverside. And Henry believed Ed and Mike would carry. This has to lean on the RCMP for help, and we cannot allow this to continue and say, well, you know what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen? The Abbotsford police are going to go under investigations. We're going to have forensic audits where they're not an important commodity to Abbotsford no more. No more after what they did. They purposely and knowingly blocked all investigations. You could see Watts. Watts didn't come out and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Pelican, for your